Project validation is a way to control what data is entered on projects. Let's take a look at this functionality. We'll demonstrate project validation, and we'll be looking specifically at the three types, which are worker project, project category, and worker category. We'll show you how they work inside of an hours journal, but it's applicable to any journal or any other business document that's project oriented. All right, so we're going to look at project validation. And the first thing to note is to toggle it on or off. You have to be in the project management and accounting module, and under setup, you can go to the project management and accounting parameters. And then basically here's the three validation fields. We have project category, worker project, and category worker. There's more to the setup, but we'll be getting into that next lesson. Here I just want to show you what it looks like and just procedurally how things work with validation. So basically, let's just start with the first one in the list. We have project category validation, and right now I have these all set to none, and you can see the three values are none, lookup, and mandatory, and that's consistent between all three of the validation types. So none means that you're not using it. Lookup means it only looks up the appropriate values and doesn't make them mandatory. And mandatory means it looks up the appropriate values and forces you to select one if you're going to define a value. So let's just keep it off, and then we'll take a look at an hours journal here, and I have a different tab open, and we're in the lines right now of this hours journal. So if I select new, the first thing that you can see is my resource number is 20, which is Julia Funderburk, and that defaults in, and we have a default category defined as well, which is project management. So if I hit this drop down though, I mean, it doesn't matter what project I'm working on or whatever. Since there's no validation, you can always just select any category that's applicable to the transaction type hours, because we're in an hours journal. And also for the projects, I can define whatever I want here too. Any of my active projects, I can select from the list. So first of all, I'll just pick city manufacturing here. That's the first project in my list. And if I hit the drop down for categories, I notice I still have the whole availability of all the different hour transaction type categories. But now let's just toggle a value on for project category. So if we turn this on, and I'll just turn it to lookup right now, and I'll save. And we jump back to our hours journal, and I hit that category drop down. Now you can see that it's validating only the applicable categories for this specific project. And it looks like there's three of them. There's consulting, project management, and web development. And if we go look at that project, I'll just show you where you can set this up as a project-specific value. So project 92. And then always on the plan tab, on the way right, there's a validation section. And this is where you can assign resources and you can assign categories. In this instance, there's assigned categories, and we can see them right there, consulting, PM, and web development. In order to do that, you just go over to the category assignment tab and move the categories from the left to the right pane, and those are the ones that are applicable for this project. There's group assignments too, and we'll get into that during the setup, but it's just a more streamlined fashion of doing this on a grander scale. Okay, so let's go back to my journal, and we'll look at the other two types. So I'm going to toggle them. They all work together, but I'm going to toggle them on and off specifically, just because I don't want to confuse anybody. So we'll get in here. I just turned off project category validation, and if I go look, I should have access to all categories now. There we go. And then if I turn on worker project, basically I'll just say look up here, and we'll save. And if I go over to this journal, I'll delete the line here and add a new line. And now what would happen is basically if you had project worker validation on, basically you're coming in here and you're going, all right, I'm going to select a project. Oh, I don't have any projects to select from. This person must not be assigned to any projects. So that's where you'd have to go find the project, go to that validation section, and assign them to a specific project. So we can do that real quick, and I'll just open up another tab, and we'll jump to a project. All projects, and I'll just pick 92, and we'll assign a resource here. And we'll go over and find Julia. She's resource 20. oh, I'm in the wrong pane. In the previous version, it was switched around here. So remaining resources, Julia is one of them. I'll move her over to a selected resource. So now she's in the selected resources, and I'll save that. Actually, I don't need to save it. But now if I come back in and I hit the drop down over here, notice that she's got that project in the list. So this is how you can restrict specific resources from booking time or logging anything to a specific, any of the transaction types to a specific project. Okay, so we'll go back to the parameters. And one other thing too, since I set that to lookup, I just want to talk towards this a little bit. I only have access to this project right here from the lookup, but since I only have that value set to lookup, it will accept me typing in another value. So notice it accepted this, and I can post this through to this project. It only looks up the proper values when you set that parameter to lookup. We'd have to set it to mandatory in order to enforce that value. So if I hit save, and now I come over here and I try and type in, let's see what happens if I try and type in 94. And I'll save this line here. I'll put in 10 hours and save. It says, unable to find a unique worker record corresponding to the entered value. So it won't let you insert this record. Notice I'm trying to hit new, and it just basically says, no, you don't have one of the correct projects. So if I pick 92 and then try and save, no, I'm good. So that's mandatory. It just blows up with an error. Lookup doesn't have any error logic around it. So I'll set this back to none, and we'll work with the category worker. So category worker is if you want to define specific categories at the resource level or the worker level, whatever you want to call it. So we'll set this to lookup, and we'll hit save there, and we'll go back to my hours journal. So now I know it's resource 20, and if I hit this drop down, we can see consulting, design, and install are the three that are available for resource 20. So we'll just jump into the resource form. I'll just click on here, the hyperlink, and it should bring me to resource 20. There we go. And you can see here's the Julia Funderburk's resource card. And basically up on the top, there's a maintain section on the project resource tab, and you can assign projects or categories to a specific resource. So if I assign categories, you can see that she's only got these three available. So if I want to, I can add a new one. If I go into the categories tab, and we'll select, let's find one that's, I'll throw quality QA in there, quality assurance. We'll back out. And you can do the same for projects if you want to from here. So if I go back to the hours journal here, and if I select the drop down for category, you can see that now we have QA available. So the thing to think about too is if you start crossing these up, like using all of them. So if you have project category, and on a project you allow, let's say, 5 categories, and that worker that you're trying to book time for, they have category worker validation, only saying that they can do PM work. If PM work isn't one of those available categories on the specific project that person's trying to log labor towards, you're not going to be able to select anything. So you have to make sure when you're setting this up, you're setting it up in the right fashion, so you're not crossing up the values between project category and category worker as well. All right, so that's just giving a quick demonstration of the three different types of validation.